You're listening to Up the Turnpike with hosts Mitch Anderson and Matt O'Leary.
Hello and welcome to Up the Turnpike. What's going on? Matt O'Leary, Mitch Anderson. Mitch, we got a little breaking news today. We got to chop up quick here on the YouTube channel.
Yeah, just come out of the shower and I get messages. That's why my hair is so slicked back. A message from you saying like they made a trade. What is happening? Why are we making trades? Who did we get now? And my disappointment was mitigated to a certain extent, seeing who we brought in. Right? I don't know if you feel the same way.
Yeah, I'm not gonna say like it's the best thing in the world. Like this is amazing that they made this trade, but I do think that there's something to it as the Islanders acquire Scott Perunovich from the St. Louis Blues, who is a 26-year-old defenseman.
Yeah. No, 1 year left, still a pending RFA, so we don't necessarily lose him right away. And we sent a conditional 5th-round pick in 2026 to the Blues for him. Now, what the conditions are, I haven't seen at time of recording. It's 2:21 right now. Even the Islanders on their official write-up don't say what the conditions are, but former Hobey Baker winner now with the Islanders.
Things that you absolutely love to see. I'm trying to share my tab and I can't find it. I have too much stuff open here, which is obviously not. So if you bear with me, we'll go through and talk through this signing here. Okay. So obviously that's my notifications. That's not what I wanted to pull up, but I did want to see first the New York Islanders official announcement of the deal and then kind of just react to that as it is a conditional 5th-round pick in not this year's draft class, next year's draft in 2026.
That's right. And again, they don't say what the conditions are. I haven't seen anyone else speak about what those conditions are right now. So remains to be seen what that is. If it's like number of games played or if the Islanders go somewhere. Remember like Jean-Gabriel Pageau, when we traded for him, we sent a conditional 3rd-round pick to the Ottawa Senators. And I think it was on the condition that we either win the Stanley Cup or make the Stanley Cup finals. I'm not entirely sure which one it was, but it was one of those two. So maybe it's something like that. You make the 1st round and he plays 20% of the time, something like that. He'll obviously play every game, so it'd be weird if it was that. But at worst, we lose a 5th next year. Wild. This nothing. This is fine. Whatever.
Yeah, and the 2nd-round pick in 2018 was drafted a little while ago, but hasn't really been able to carve out a full role in St. Louis. He's played in 24 games this year, 6 points, playing 14:37, and then last year he played the most in his career, 54 games, 17 assists for 17 points, and 15 minutes and 16 seconds of ice time.
Yeah. So like he hasn't been able to carve out a role with those St. Louis Blues, and I want to say right from the hop, I'm not going to, and I'm sure you're going to say the same thing, we're not going to pretend that we're St. Louis Blues experts and we know everything about Scott Perunovich here. We are finding out more about him as we go, and I'm sure you are as well, which is kind of the point of this video, where we can all go through this together. But it seems that he was not able to carve out a full-time role over in St. Louis, despite the fact that he has great college numbers. Again, Hobey Baker in 2020, and even just as good AHL numbers. It was somewhere around a point per game in the very little time that he was in the AHL. So the promise was growing right up until the point where he hit the NHL, and things just never clicked, it seemed, at least in terms of production, that is.
Yeah, he might just be a change of scenery guy. Because I want to pull up his numbers, obviously, in the AHL. In 22-23, had 20 points in 22 games, 21-22, 22 points in 17 games. And even some of his analytic numbers are pretty good, especially in transition, Mitch.
Yeah, which is interesting because that's kind of where the Islanders need a lot of help. So you're showing the JFresh card there. And again, take these analytics with not a grain of salt, but knowing that they are what they are, and it doesn't just reveal the entire picture. And that's coming from a guy who leans heavily towards analytics. I'm still telling you, take that for what it is. It's not a full picture, but it is a good one when you're bringing up a guy who's got 81% even strength defense or offense. Great in terms of first assists, and like the next tweet that you're hovering over there, those transition numbers are looking pretty good, right? And that's relative to the rest of the league.
Small sample too, because he hasn't played a ton, but with the Islanders, there's certainly room for more opportunity as they've lost now multiple defensemen in the last little bit here. Now he is a lefty. Ryan Pulock, as we know, is a righty, but they bring in Tony DeAngelo, and then they make a throwaway trade is tough. But like you mentioned, a future considerations trade when we reacted to Tony DeAngelo, and this is essentially that with a 5th or 6th round pick, depending on conditions in next year's draft class, for a guy who will be an RFA at the end of the year as well.
Yeah, I'm surprised why this wasn't the first thing you did with Tony DeAngelo instead of Tony DeAngelo. But I assume, as people will probably point out in the comments, like, well, they didn't have to trade anything, even though it's a future consideration, or not future consideration, conditional 5th next year. They still didn't need to move that for Tony D. They only out like $780,000. Totally fair. Absolutely. And now with Ryan Pulock going down, they had to do something, I suppose, instead of calling up Samuel Bolduc, who's on like a 5-game point streak with 8 points. They're like, no thanks. We're going to take up this other 2nd round pick defenseman from 2 years after you were drafted, my friend. Oof. That's got to suck for Samuel Bolduc.
Yeah, but clearly not working, and they lost another defenseman. So it was something that they had to do. And I think there's some upside here. Again, this is a very low risk move, potential high reward. I'm not going to come on and be like, he's going to be on the top pair, play 25 minutes. And this is your, left-handed defenseman of the future. They found their guy, but I'm not going to lie to you. I do think that there is some upside here.
Yeah. And like, we're not the only ones to think that. Even some St. Louis Blues fans, like, I'm just looking at the tweet from the St. Louis Blues themselves. At 135, saying like the first comment, this is going to go down as one of the worst trades in franchise history. Hyperbolic for sure, and maybe that's a little tongue in cheek. I don't necessarily think so, but like, that's already at least the sentiment from sometimes some Blues fans is that this is not a great move for them. Again, you're going to see some in here that are like, well, good luck moving on. I think there's even one a little bit lower that's like, there it is. Best wishes, just a lot different game than the NCAA. Totally fair. And I think that we're seeing the reaction from the St. Louis Blues fans saying like, whoa, we're losing a guy here that we didn't necessarily want to lose, albeit he wasn't necessarily at least performing to the expectations of the team in terms of warranting more ice time. And so maybe the Islanders find something in him and it kind of pops off. Maybe
that's the hope. And I would think you see him sooner rather than later. Cause again, he's been, not that he's played every night for the Blues, but he's played 24 games. So roughly half their games. And the Islanders need bodies on the back end immediately.
They do. Now, some of you who may have watched our Tony DeAngelo coverage and are coming in here just waiting to see like how they're going to slip up and they're going to say this is a great move for the Islanders. There's promise there, sure, but it still confuses me. Maybe not confuses me. It still puts the retool flower that has been planted in my head kind of beat down a bit more because you're going, clearly Lou is still going for it. Whether that works or not remains to be seen, but the intent is to go for it. And then what happens when they do? Because that means you're probably not trading Brock Nelson. You're probably not trading Kyle Palmieri. And I don't like what this trade and the Tony DeAngelo signing signals, right? Take away who they are, who we're bringing in, just what it signals by making these moves. It seems that Lou is, as he said, still contending, and we might not be in a position to trade some of our biggest trade assets.
I hope that's not the case. I hope that either Tony DeAngelo, which, a vet minimum deal, a trade for a conditional 5th or 6th round pick next year, is not enough to stop Lou Lamoriello from trading off pieces. Maybe I'm wrong, and maybe he does stay pat or even buy, which would be scary to me. But I don't think this is like trading for who they trade for last year from St. Louis. Ortuzzo. I don't think it's necessarily the same thing because this is a younger player who is an RFA. So then at the end of the year turns into an asset. You could either trade him, you could sign him if you like, or just part ways and move on. So I'm okay with the move. I'm not saying again, I don't want this to be misconstrued that I think he's going to be this awesome player. But can he come in and be a role guy for a little bit? I think so.
Yeah, and then maybe something happens. Maybe it pops off, and We have something that we didn't have before that we need. Maybe
Would be nice. Found value.
would be nice. All to summarize, it's a conflicting situation because I like the idea of bringing in Scott Perunovich just in terms of who he is and what he does, but I don't like the idea of what that signals going forward. So it's a really, really strange position to be in for myself at the very least. I don't know about you guys at home, but you'll let us know in the comments, I'm sure.
Yeah, let us know in the comments. Islanders back in action tomorrow on Tuesday night. So we'll see if he is in the lineup and playing, but that's just going to do it for us. Wanted to hop on quick and give our initial reaction to the trade. Let us know what you think in the comments. Subscribe if you're new, and we will catch you next time.